Hands behind your back now.
Why am I being detained?
Because I said so.
That's not lawful.
Turn around. Last warning.
I'm a retired Navy SEAL Admiral.
Breathe. Hands behind your back.
This is the moment that will cost him everything. Before the night is over, this officer will lose his badge, his job, and his future. Before the year is out, the city will quietly authorize an $8 million settlement to make this footage disappear. And all of it begins here, with a voice that confuses authority with dominance and a man who refuses to surrender his dignity to intimidation. The officer doesn't know it yet, but he has already failed the most important test of his career, restraint. The body cam captures a quiet sidewalk outside an upscale restaurant. Laughter spills out behind glass doors. Valets move with practiced indifference. And standing under the glow of restaurant lighting is a man who does not look afraid. He is calm, centered, unshakable. A retired Navy SEAL Admiral who has spent decades mastering chaos and now finds himself facing a different kind of threat, not violence, ego. The officer approaches already irritated. His posture is stiff. His questions aren't questions at all. They're challenges. He's been told there's a disturbance. That word alone flips a switch. In his mind, a script begins to run. Someone must be put in their place. And the Admiral doesn't fit the role. The danger for the officer begins immediately because he assumes something without verifying anything. He assumes non-compliance. He assumes disrespect. He assumes superiority. Every assumption pulls him further from policy and deeper into instinct, the kind of instinct that ruins careers. Hands behind your back. It's not a request. It's a declaration of control. The Admiral doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't insult. He does something far more threatening to a fragile ego. He asks why. That single question lands like a slap. This is where power dynamics turn predatory. The officer isn't reacting to behavior. He's reacting to resistance. Not physical resistance, intellectual resistance. The refusal to submit without cause. And that's dangerous. Because the moment an officer stops enforcing the law and starts enforcing obedience, the law becomes irrelevant. Juries see it. Internal affairs sees it. Civil attorneys smell it like blood in water. The Admiral's calm becomes a mirror. Every clipped command from the officer reflects back as insecurity. Every demand escalates without justification, and escalation without justification is the fastest way to lose qualified immunity. The officer leans in. His tone hardens. His patience thins. You're not in charge here. What he means is, you're challenging me. This is the second dangerous moment, because the officer is no longer trying to resolve a situation. He's trying to win, and policing is not a competition. The moment it becomes one, everyone loses. The Admiral remains still, his hands visible, his voice even. I'm asking why I'm being detained. It's a lawful question, a protected one, and the officer knows it. But instead of answering, he does something catastrophic. Because I said so. That sentence will be replayed in depositions, in hearings, in a courtroom where the city's lawyers will quietly avoid eye contact with him, because I said so is not probable cause. It's not reasonable suspicion. It's not anything the law recognizes. It is pure ego. The narrator must pause here because this is where the officer's career begins to collapse in real time. Every training module he ever sat through warned him about this exact scenario. A compliance subject, a public setting, clear audio, multiple witnesses, and an officer choosing dominance over discipline. The Admiral asks for the badge number. That's when the officer's jaw tightens. You can hear it in his breathing. Faster now. Sharper. Authority questioned is authority threatened, and threatened authority often lashes out. Turn around. Last warning. This is the sound of a man doubling down instead of stepping back, and doubling down is fatal when you're wrong. The Admiral doesn't flinch. You're making a mistake. He's not pleading. He's not posturing. He's stating a fact. And the officer responds with the most dangerous words of all. We'll see about that. This is no longer law enforcement. This is personal. Handcuffs come out. Metal clicks echo on the sidewalk. Nearby conversations stop. Phones begin to rise. The Admiral is turned, wrists bound, dignity intact. His calm now functions as an indictment. Every second he remains composed makes the officer look smaller, meaner, more reckless. This is why this moment is catastrophic for the officer's career. The subject is giving him nothing to justify what comes next. No aggression, no threats, no resistance, only composure. And composure destroys bad policing. The officer radios in. His voice is tight, clipped, defensive. He calls for a supervisor, not because policy requires it, but because instinct tells him something is slipping out of his control. The radio chirps back, and that sound, that single acknowledgement, is the cliff's edge. Because once a supervisor arrives, this is no longer just his mistake. It becomes the department's problem. The supervisor's voice crackles through the radio like a warning shot. Not loud, not urgent, just present, and presence is dangerous when you're already in the wrong. The officer straightens instinctively, as if posture can undo what the camera has already recorded. His tone shifts, not calmer, but tighter. More controlled on the surface, more desperate underneath. This is the phase where arrogance tries to disguise itself as professionalism. The Admiral stands cuffed on the sidewalk, shoulders relaxed, eyes forward. He doesn't gloat. He doesn't threaten. He doesn't even look at the officer. That restraint is surgical. Because every second he remains composed, the imbalance grows more obvious. This is why this moment is lethal for the officer's career. Supervisors don't just listen to words. They read energy. And the energy here is unmistakable. One man trying to justify himself, another waiting to be heard. The supervisor arrives and asks the most dangerous question an officer can be asked after a bad stop. What's going on? Not what did he do? Not why is he in cuffs? Just what's going on? The officer launches into explanation mode. His sentences stack on top of each other. Vague references, half-formed justifications. Disturbance. Refusal. Attitude. None of it lands. None of it explains why a calm, well-dressed man was escalated to handcuffs outside a restaurant full of witnesses. The Admiral finally speaks, slowly, clearly, without accusation. I asked why I was being detained. He refused to tell me. That's it. No embellishment, no outrage, just a statement of fact. And facts are devastating. This is the fourth dangerous moment for the officer. Because now there are two narratives on record, and only one is consistent with the footage. The supervisor looks from the Admiral to the officer. The silence stretches. Long enough to be uncomfortable. Long enough for the officer to realize he is no longer in control of the story. The supervisor asks for identification. The Admiral provides it, and everything changes. The name, the rank, the unmistakable weight of a career built on discipline, leadership, and service at the highest levels. A man who commanded respect without ever demanding it. The supervisor's expression shifts, not to fear, but to recognition. Not who this man is, but what this stop now represents. Because detaining a civilian improperly is a problem. Detaining a retired Navy SEAL admiral without cause is a crisis. This is where the officer's internal alarm should be screaming. This is where a smart officer would apologize, de-escalate, correct course. But arrogance has momentum, and once it's rolling downhill, it doesn't stop easily. The officer interjects, tries to reassert himself. His voice edges sharper again, as if volume can reclaim authority already lost. The supervisor cuts him off. That interruption is subtle, but it's everything. Because being cut off means the supervisor has already decided who is credible. The cuffs come off. metal releases skin. The Admiral rubs his wrists once, not dramatically, not angrily. Just enough for the camera to see the red marks forming, temporary injuries, permanent evidence. This is why this second is dangerous for the officer's career. Visible marks transform misconduct into damages. Damages transform misconduct into lawsuits, and lawsuits transform officers into liabilities. The supervisor apologizes, carefully, professionally, on camera. The officer does not. He stands rigid, eyes forward, jaw clenched. A man watching his authority evaporate in real time. He doesn't look at the Admiral. He doesn't look at the supervisor. He looks straight ahead, as if refusing to acknowledge the collapse might stop it. It won't. The Admiral leaves without spectacle. No shouting, no threats, just a quiet exit into the night. But the damage follows him, and it follows the officer even more closely. Because the story doesn't end on that sidewalk. It begins there. Within days, the footage circulates internally, then externally. Analysts slow it down. Attorneys annotate it. Commentators dissect tone, posture, language. "Because I said so" becomes the phrase everyone remembers. The department places the officer on administrative leave. That phrase sounds neutral. It isn't. It's the pause before judgment. Internal Affairs opens an investigation. Training records are reviewed. Prior complaints resurface. Patterns are examined. And patterns are deadly when exposed to light. The officer insists he did nothing wrong. That insistence becomes his final mistake. Because accountability can mitigate consequences. Denial multiplies them. The Admiral files a civil suit, not loudly, not vengefully, methodically. The claim isn't just unlawful detention. It's bias. It's humiliation. It's abuse of power. It's the reckless certainty of an officer who believed the badge made him untouchable. Depositions begin. And this is where arrogance truly collapses, because under oath there is no bluster, no command voice, no intimidation, only questions, precise, relentless, unforgiving. "Why did you detain him?" "Because he was uncooperative." "How?" "He questioned me." Is questioning an officer illegal? Silence. Every answer tightens the noose. Every deflection sharpens the contrast between authority exercised and authority abused. The city watches the case closely, not out of justice, but out of risk management. Jurors don't like arrogance, they don't like vague justifications, and they especially don't like watching calm, dignified citizens treated as threats for existing outside someone else's expectations. Settlement discussions begin quietly. $8 million. That number doesn't represent generosity. It represents fear. Fear of a jury. Fear of headlines. Fear of what happens when a camera captures the truth too clearly to deny. The officer is terminated. No ceremony, no public defense, just a line item in a press release. Violation of department policy. But everyone knows what it really means. He wasn't fired for one mistake. He was fired for refusing to see the moment when he still could have chosen differently. The final irony is this. The Admiral never raises his voice once, never resists, never insults. His calm becomes the sharpest weapon in the room, a mirror held steady while ego self-destructs. And the body cam doesn't lie. It just waits. Recording. Until arrogance finishes telling on itself, the footage doesn't explode overnight. It leaks, quietly at first. A local journalist, a civil rights attorney, a former cop who recognizes the tone before the words even register. The clip moves from inbox to inbox, each viewer pausing at the same moment, the same sentence. "Because I said so." That's when the narrative locks in. Because those 4 words don't just describe a bad stop. They expose a mindset, a belief system. An officer who didn't see a citizen, he saw a challenge. And once the public understands that, everything else becomes secondary. This is the final danger for the officer's career, Perception hardens faster than policy ever can. The department issues a statement, carefully worded, passive, full of phrases like, "We take these matters seriously and under review." No one mentions race, no one mentions arrogance, no one mentions ego. The public does. Comment sections fill with pattern recognition, not just what happened, but how familiar it feels. The posture, the tone, the escalation without cause, the reflexive use of cuffs when compliance was never the problem. Former officers weigh in, quietly at first, then openly. That wasn't policing. That was insecurity. That was someone who shouldn't be wearing a badge. Each comment strips another layer of protection away. The officer stays silent, advised to, isolated. He replays the encounter in his head, but not with clarity, with resentment. In his version, he's still the authority, still justified, still misunderstood. That inability to self-correct becomes his epitaph, because contrast matters. The Admiral gives one interview, just one. He doesn't attack the department. He doesn't name the officer. He doesn't even raise his voice. He talks about dignity, about service, about the danger of confusing authority with entitlement, and that interview does more damage than any accusation ever could. Why? Because credibility is asymmetric. The public trusts calm more than outrage. They trust restraint more than rage. They trust a man who didn't need to dominate a situation to prove he mattered. This is where the psychological reversal completes itself. The officer wanted compliance. The Admiral offered composure. And composure won. Training divisions across the country quietly circulate the clip, not as entertainment, as warning. In classrooms, instructors pause the video at the same moment. Right here, they say. This is where it goes wrong. They don't talk about handcuffs, they don't talk about race, they talk about ego. Because ego is the one variable policy can't fully control. The settlement is approved without admission of wrongdoing. The city insists it's a financial decision, not a moral one. No one believes that. $8 million isn't paid to avoid inconvenience. It's paid to bury certainty. The officer's name fades from the headlines, but it doesn't disappear. It resurfaces whenever a new clip emerges, whenever a new stop goes bad, whenever another officer chooses dominance over discipline. His story becomes shorthand, a cautionary tale passed between recruits, a reminder whispered in locker rooms, a career reduced to a lesson, and the body cam? It keeps doing what it always does. It doesn't accuse, it doesn't editorialize, it doesn't forgive. It simply records the moment a man mistook a badge for immunity and learned far too late that the camera sees everything authority tries to hide. Because the most dangerous mistake an officer can make isn't malice, it's certainty. And once that certainty is exposed, there is no appeal.